I didn't know him by name at the time,
Uh-huh.
but I remember playing in some concert, and oh yes, I did a realisation with Roger Smalley of Cardew's Octet 61, which had turned up in the Musical Times in 1961, and Cardew is in the audience. And he came up and spoke to me afterwards. I suddenly realised this is the guy who's killing himself with laughter about my piano sonata. Of course, I had totally forgiven him about that, not too troubled by these things. But he was very interested in a traditional musician being interested in something as, for that time, extremely far out as Octet 61. And so he started inviting me on board to all sorts of concerts of music that I just found wonderful magic. Because having attended all those SPNM concerts of string quartets, etc., 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 and suddenly the skies were opening, and there's music that was fun, and music that that wasn't just the result of a lot of hours of study. And this is all rather contradictory with what I've been saying before, but suddenly the idea of music of ideas.
And this is composition or it's improvisation as well?
Well, it was a kind of area halfway. And suddenly there are these scores of graphic notation and verbal pieces, and there we were doing these things with some like-minded folk, John Tilbury, David Bedford, and Peter Greenaway, who went on to make films, and all sorts of people from different disciplines. And then yes, this was about 10 years worth of 60s. So that was how I got involved. And I got to work with Morton Feldman, and I took part in the broadcast of some Cage, and got supervised by Cage himself, and got involved with something by Stockhausen, that involved meeting the great man, whose one comment after the concert was, "Why is English music so sad?" Thinking, well, what am I supposed to make of this? But yes, I met all these people, and they just seemed to be very welcome new direction. And Cornelius started the Scratch Orchestra, and I went along for, I think, about 6 months to all of the rehearsals, which were very liberating. There are people from all walks of life taking part in these events, some of which would involve the whole of Richmond Park, or the whole of the Circle Line, or the kind of big ideas and fun things to do. And then I remember the leaden moment when I think Tilbury delivered a Marxist-Leninist analysis of what was wrong with the Scratch Orchestra. John Tilbury, who I like so well as a friend, actually has a lot to answer for there. I was leading a double life at the time because besides doing experimental music, I was conducting musicals in the West End. I was conducting Canterbury Tales, and conducted Lauren Bacall in Applause, and all sorts of things like that. And I'd occasionally take a night off to go along to Scratch Orchestra and do something completely different. And then the Scratch Orchestra became a political body, and instead of rehearsing bits of what we'd call performance art now, people would get up and complain about the way their landlords are treating them or something, and I'm afraid just lost interest totally. Also, there was a slight feeling of class conflict there, in that people like Michael Parsons, Christopher Hobbs, Howard Skemp, not so much Howard, but some of us who'd had a musical training, serious musical training, were seen as being kind of bourgeois elitists and oh, you and your crotchets and quavers kind of thing.
Right.
And so I felt that I wasn't really on a wavelength with the Scratchers, and took my leave, and with Hugh Shrapnel and Chris Hobbs and a chap called Alec Hill, we formed the Promenade Theatre Orchestra, and we started doing repetitive pieces. I'd taken part in the first London performance of Terry Riley's In C. Cornelius had organised that. I think we'd done Lamont Young's Death Chant and In C and a couple of other very interesting, sparky pieces. And this was the New Liberation. 10 years of the free improvisation, which always sounded the same. And then suddenly this very orderly music that seemed very fresh and new. So we were doing in the Promenade Theatre Orchestra, we were doing a sort of English version of minimalist music, music with a kind of patina to it, music with failure factors.
And then you wrote, the C major machine, which I know well.
Yes, a lot of pieces.
For the PTO.
A lot of pieces got called machines because I felt the difference between them and sonatas or something is that they were about to process. Sorry.
You go ahead, yeah.
I started calling things machines at the time because the sounds were the result of a fully thought out process rather than the subject of the changeabilities of inspiration. Now, in the old days I used to be very careful how I composed piano sonatas and then sort of think ahead. Nowadays I just write the first note, start. Because I think by now all sorts of formal considerations are so ingrained that I sort of don't need to make notes or anything. But the machines thing was very much about I don't know, following the procedures of change ringing and using the resulting concatenations of numbers as indications of register, or it was a kind of serialism, I suppose.
Well, so I suppose systems is what it's always. That's the word that's always thrown at it as well. Systems music.
Yes, and I've still got a lot of time for that because there's some kind of media for which systems work very well. I mean, church bells, for instance, because they're no good for playing tunes on. So. And we used to find this in the PTO, and also I used to teach composition at the Yehudi Menuhin School and things, and I used to write machines for all sorts of people.
Oh yes, the Yehudi Menuhin School machine. Is there one?
Yes, there are a few. Yes.
Yeah.
And they were all kind of demonstrations of systems, really kind of accumulative systems, change-ringing systems.
Well, you famously, there's another legend about you that you lose lots of your pieces.
Yes, I do. Yes, a lot sort of got, I don't know, lying people's cats' trays or something. I think that I've got most of the piano sonatas. I think one or two of them are definitely not around anymore.
But you don't keep a sort of a box or a pile of
all those white. Let's
go over there.
Coverings there cover the piano sonatas in groups of 10.
Oh right, okay.
So the piano sonatas I have kept. And I've also got in the next room shelf after shelf of theatre music.
I'm sure, you know.
All sorts of pieces I've written, various ensembles that I've worked with. And I'm better about it now than I used to be. I used to not even photocopy things, I just hand things over.
Right, yeah.
Because I don't know whether you're the same, but I find it very difficult to go on being interested in a piece after I've finished it.